Hi, I'm Jamie Forbes, and we're here with Monte Farber in Amy Zerner and Monte's studio. Hi, Monte. How are
Jamie.
you?
It's so nice to see you again.
Oh, it's such a big pleasure. And you and Amy have been working together. Amy has her big show coming up at the Rubin.
Yes.
And you've worked together for how many years?
Well, we've worked together since 1975, but our first real project that was published in the world came out in 1990, which was called The Enchanted Tarot.
And that's this group.
That's right. That's actually this. This is the new packaging of it.
Oh,
it's
wow.
still going strong since 1990. It's now published by Weiser, Red Wheel Weiser.
Oh, really?
Yep.
One of my favorite publishers.
Yeah, and that was the first time we collaborated. It was my words and Amy's art, like Cupid, you know, Mercury and Venus.
And did Amy do the art for the
Yeah, she did
cover?
78 tapestries. Each one is about 2 feet by 1 foot. I don't think there's one down here, but she did 78 of them. It took a couple of years to do.
Now you're an astrologer, correct, Monte?
Yes, I started as an astrologer.
And what would you, if you were pressed to title your best accomplishment or best focus?
My best accomplishment is our relationship. I think that's everything flows out of our relationship. So that's why we call our brand the Enchanted World, because we've created an enchanted world, because the world is not enchanted. But we want to show people that it is possible to have a basically enchanted world. We're not, you know, airy-fairy. We know that there's death and suffering and all the other stuff that comes with life, but you have to have the carrot to walk behind to keep you going. So the enchanted world is where we're all headed.
And your forte is what I'm driving at, would be your forte, your expertise. I know you have a great expertise.
Talking, and when I write, I talk. So it's the same thing.
And your audience, you're writing about what to whom?
The books that we do, that I've done so far, are mainly taking someone who has an interest in something but not an expertise, and bringing them into it. Like all my books on the tarot are designed for someone who's just interested in it, but by the end of that book, you're going to be as good as someone who reads professionally, and in some cases better, because you're not going to have the same prejudices. And so that's my specialty, is sort of writing instruction books, I guess.
So you believe, as I believe, anybody can do this. You just have to focus or want to,
definitely.
or be involved.
Definitely.
Walk into the energies.
Yeah, you have to have intention, and you have to have the dedication to do it. I mean, to me, art is taking the time to do something, and then getting paid for it's a whole other story. But when you make art, that's it. In astrology, the fifth house rules art, romance, creativity, gambling, things that you just take a chance, things that you just do for their own sake. Have a child, fifth house. That you can't control that child once you've had that child, because that child has its own life. You can't control that piece of art once it's gone. You can't judge that piece of art, because it's the making of it. So that's the fifth house in astrology.
So I have Taurus on the cusp of my fifth. What do you have in yours?
That's a good question. Probably, let's see, Aquarius, Capricorn, Sag. I have Sag.
Oh, do you really? What an adventurer.
Yeah. Well, the Enchanted World is our adventure.
Oh,
that's the
how
world we
lovely.
explore.
Okay.
We're like the Magellans of the
interesting.
of the other world, because people right now are too busy, and a lot of times they're too distracted, and then the outer world is so hectic right now. They need something that's going to calm them down and bring them into the inner world, and that's what we do. We don't think anything is wrong with people being in the world. We're not asking people to become members of an ashram or a cult or a religion or anything else like that. We're just saying, calm down a little bit, play a game that takes you into that higher realm that you can access at any time. Like, I've become psychic from writing all these books. I can do it anytime. I could do it in the subway. I could do it while I'm driving. It's just practice. So take some time to practice, to get into your alpha state, and learn that it's not so different. You know, it's not so crazy. I mean, to me, I think it's weird that people aren't psychic, or that they don't want to ask the tarot cards. We think of tarot cards and like our different projects as like Google. You have a question, you get an answer, and sometimes you can't understand Google. Right. Sometimes you look at Google and it returns an answer that you just that's so wrong. but you got to figure it out. So you got to know how to ask the question of Google. You got to know how to ask the question
So
of the tarot.
like going to the Delphi Oracle and you're asking the Oracle
Exactly.
for the answer.
Right, and the Delphi Oracle always spoke in riddles. So you were talking before about symbolism and about metaphor. Mm-hmm. The tarot is a metaphor for life. The 78 cards, the 22 cards of the major arcana, which is the major high things, the spiritual life. That's the fool's journey from the fool to the world. That's the spiritual progress that we all go through, and then once you get to the end of it, you start again as the fool. You know, so that's the spiral of life, and then the rest of the deck is all about the world.
Beautifully put, Monty. Yeah, beautifully put.
Thank you. Well, that's really, I think, what I'm here, what I'm put on this world for, is to show people that there was good in the past that we can bring into the future, but let's not bring the crazy stuff from the past into the
Well, that's this transition we're going through now.
Right.
That's everybody is going to leave the baggage behind.
Let's hope.
But what I am mindful of is that the foundation of the universe, the elements and the symbols, which are the elements are the symbols which have been drawn to life symbolically through elements. These are fixed.
Do you mean the chemical elements?
Yes, the building blocks, and the way in which we envision numbers. And Jung says, were they there or did we create them? And in my mind, the numbers are there.
Well, numbers are the universal language.
Correct. So the numbers and the elements are the universal building blocks. They create the vision of the universe scientifically, the rational universe that we know. And then from there, we can there's a demarcation, and the demarcation can be through philosophy, it can be through the Avasa and the Yavanya, it can be color and light. And there's a whole language of myth and story and metaphor that correlates into the hardcore reality.
I missed the two. There were two like Indian words in there. I didn't know what those were.
Avanya and Avasa.
What is that?
That's sound and light, and the Greeks had another name for it, but it's basically, it's a 14,000-year-old concept of sound and light, and it matches with physics today.
Sure.
That's what physics is all about today, but it's not, that wasn't, the point being that as you define the simplicity of the vision of interpretation and how to walk into a space, the space that we're going to be defining is in some ways very constant and very universal.
The future?
Well, I'm not thinking in terms of
because you're saying the space we're going to walk into. I wasn't sure.
The universal space of constant now, the universal definitives of structure.
So what I try and do with the books that we do, what Amy and I try and do, is to relate it to, I mean, is to relate it to more mundane things, like to understanding how to have a better life right now. Like, that sounds very high to me. I don't understand how that's going to affect me in my life.
Oh, because unless you understand that there's a real truth and rationale to everything we witness, and even as we kind of embark on our spiritual internal journeys, there's a rationale, there's a real hardcore reality to it.
You mean there's a reason for everything?
There's a reason, there's a reality.
Okay, that I understand, sure.
And if you can't call black white, it just is not. Unless
you get down to the subatomic level.
But that's another
when everything gets crazy.
Yeah, but that's another what's faster than the speed of light, and that's the human mind.